Interestingly, I don't think in all the time I've ever said the shir here that I've come without my notes. This is the first time I've come without notes, so this might be an interesting shir.
I can't hear.
Can't hear? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you're on.
Hello. Yeah, that's a bit better. Can you hear me now? Yeah. This is the first time in all the years I've been invited to say the shir that I actually have come without my notes. So the shir might be slightly different to the one that I'd actually planned a long time ago. So how this comes out, we'll see. Interesting. In the place I live in America, I live in a place called Five Towns, which is quite just next to JFK. Very useful when you're flying around the world. And I am the old man of the shul. I'm the Zokain of the shul. Just thought I'd tell you that. And it's very interesting because the young men in the shul, they often come to me to ask, because I've got the grey hair, advice, etc. And a couple of times recently, the two of them have given droshes. And I sat there, and of course the trick of getting a little bit older is to learn not to open your mouth. But one of them said something which was echoed by a second shir. He talked about, it's just been Rosh Hashanah, and one of them said, and we know that we're going to go through the year, and we're going to make mistakes, we're going to do averas, etc. It's inevitable, etc. And I wasn't so happy with hearing that. I'm not saying that it's not true, but I wasn't so happy with the way he was saying it. It's not so obvious that necessarily, after all, we just finished Rosh Hashanah. We've just dealt with our account in Shemayim with Hashem Yisborach. Why do you want to, as it were, blot your copybook straight away by almost saying it's inevitable that you're going to make mistakes? Maybe not. Maybe not. In particular, if there's a couple of things you've taken on, because it was just a blink of the eye, and it was Rosh Hashanah, was it not? Maybe you've taken on, as I have, a couple of things that I wanted to work on. I said to Hashem Yisborach, I will work on. And I don't want to give myself an iron horror, but certainly I can. Not bad. I have to tell you, I've not slipped up. It's not so inevitable that you will slip up. And yet you say, oh, it's good. Wasn't so sure. And last Friday night, I was sitting with the Rav of the show, was a very, very fine person. And his uncle, he had an uncle there, or cousins, I'm not exactly sure who it was, a Rav from Yerushalayim. I didn't know who the Rav was, which was a pity because I would have talked less and listened more. But he's one of the Rosh Yeshiva of Torah of Rav Scheinberg's, the Katzadik of Roch's Yeshiva. He's got a Rav Altuski, or Mordechai Altuski, and I was extremely impressed with everything he had to say. And I would have kept quiet completely and absorbed everything from him rather than put on my in my tuppence worth. But Rav Altuski said an interesting Maisa, which I thought it certainly applied to the idea of maybe not condemning yourself too much. And it was a Maisa, he said, it just happened a couple of weeks ago in Yerushalayim. There was a young couple who got married, and when the young couple got married, it was, they had a discussion, and the Kala said to her chosin that she wanted to take on the chumrah of lighting candles 10 minutes early. 10 minutes early. Which is a nice thing to do. Why not? So it was their first Friday night, or Friday, together. And so she wanted 10 minutes. He came, in actual fact, she lit the candles 8 minutes before Shabbos. Not 10 minutes. And when she came to light her candles, she found that they were already lit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, I know. The chosin, the young husband, had already lit the candles. So she was extraordinarily upset by this, but she painted a smile on her face. And she somehow got through Shabbos without saying, how could you steal away my mitzvah? How can you gamble about my mitzvah? But after Havdalah, it was all just too much. And she said to him, how could you steal my mitzvah? I mean, a young bride, her first time lighting her candles, and you lit, I was 2 minutes late. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about, I didn't light your candles. She said, yes, you did. No, I didn't. Have you ever had this conversation with him? Yes, I didn't. No. So what happened was like this. Taka knew that she wanted to light the candles a little bit early. He came down. People have the minhag. Some people say these days you don't need to because of the nature of the candles, but it's the case that the husband lights the candles first and then blows them out. So they're singed a little bit so that they light perfectly, so there's no delay in the lighting of it. So he lit the candles, ready to blow them out, and the front doorbell rang. So he went to see who was at the door. And when he came back, after he'd finished speaking a few minutes later, there was his wife who'd come in, saw the candles lit, and just made her brachas like she normally, or her bakoshas. He saw her standing at her candles, assumed that she had put them out and then lit them again. Well, I can't have it. Very interesting. But when you look at such a Maisa, if you were there, if you were the chosin, or you were the kala, it's astonishing how quickly we fall into forgetting about the mitzvah of Don LeKaf Zechus. And that, when he was telling the story, Taka, normally when somebody tells you a story like that, a Don LeKaf Zechus story, you can normally, it's like working out the punchline of a joke, you can normally work out how it's going to turn out that really there was no way out of this except to assume Don LeKaf Zechus. But I couldn't think of a good happy ending to this one, but there was one. It's just that he had lit them and somebody came to the front door and he came in and he saw her and he thought, I was very impressed with that. I wouldn't have thought that. And I would have failed in the mitzvah of Don LeKaf Zechus. The mitzvah of Don LeKaf Zechus is very, very appropriate Torah. I want to go into it a little bit more depth. It's very appropriate Torah centered. Let's just think about it for a second. We all know this is the Pirkei Avos. And it says in the first paragraph of the Mishnah of Yeshua ben Prachia ben Natai Arbeli, Kiblu Mihem Yeshua ben Prachia Omer Asa L'Chol Rav. Get yourself a rabbi. Get yourself a chover. Behevi don es kol ha'odam LeKaf Zechus. Interesting word behevi. In your constant state, always tomid, should always be don LeKaf Zechus. Should always be done something LeKaf Zechus. So what does that mean? And we'll all remind ourselves what the Rambam says on this. Everybody knows this. Havidon is called LeKaf Zechus. In Yonah kashahaya adam shaloi tedu boy im tzadik hu im rosh. So if you come across somebody and you don't know the sale at all, and you don't need tzaddik, or you don't need rosh, there's no indications either way. So you see him doing something or saying something which is ambiguous. You can assume, you can spin it to be Mazogan and Heinrich Sprach. You can spin it in a way that it's toiv, he did a good thing. Or alternatively, the other way, the Im Tafrisha al Derech HaKeres Yira, and if you spin it the other way, then you did something bad. Then Kach Oiza ala Toiv, but Lo Tasha Boil Ra. So what you should do is assume, that's the mitzvah Don LeKaf Zechus. You don't know the fellow, then you should spin it the Tzaddik Toiv. So I would kind of imagine that the Kala knew the husband a little bit. I mean, it wasn't just the first Shabbos together, but certainly she should have been Don LeKaf Zechus. Adam im yeh ha'adam noideshu yitzadik, meforsim. The Loshen's interesting. This is the Rambam, so every word is gold. So if you know about a person who's a tzaddik, meforsim, the polas types, and everybody knows that he always does wonderful things, then nira lo pol shekol in yonav moyim shu poil ra, and you see the tzaddik doing something, and it is overwhelmingly obvious that he's done something bad. I mean, it's not 50-50, but it's overwhelming. Then Adam Yochel Achir al Toiv, and you're not, in all good faith, able to say that it's so obvious. I see, that's something really bad. And the Bedoch Gol, you'd have to say something really to come out with this. We all know the Gemara's on the subject. Really, Bedoch Gol applies. And I remember here many years ago when I was first living in Manchester, as I could live here. There was a story about a certain lady in Stott from a frum family, and her behaviour started to become extraordinarily inappropriate. And the shaitel came off, and she was seen eating in a trade restaurant in town, and this was from Unsere Gehila, and everybody was really shocked. And the people in the show were good people, so they were just heartbroken that she could behave like this, but I don't think anybody thought of brain tumor. I don't think anybody thought of brain sugar, which is taka. It turned out what the lady had. And that was what was affecting her behaviour. So the Shas Docha is actually, when it's somebody who's a good person, then Taki, you go to that extra mile. It's not 50-50. It's 99% that they ate treif and you saw them doing this and whatever, but it's a tzaddik, then you've got to assume that somehow or other it was for the good. You've got to go to the nth degree when it comes to such a person. So there's a Gemara. And this Gemara, I can't remember where I came across this recently. I teach this I was teaching this to my Talmidim in Shor Yoshev. And it's an extraordinarily difficult one. I find it very, very difficult even to read the Gemara. This is in Tainus and Daf Kof and Aleph. And the Gemara starts with this. Tan Rabbanim. You should always be soft or supple like a reed, and you should never be hard like a cedar tree. As Rabbi Loza Bar Shimon ben Migdal Bidar. So Rabbi Loza ben Shimon came from Migdal Bidar once upon a time, a base rabbi from his Rebbe's house. Went to see his Rebbe. And he was riding along in a donkey. And he must have stopped to give himself the donkey. He was walking along the riverbank. And he was so, just been, imagine any of us, you go and spend time with your Rov, it's a huge chizuk. See, and sometimes you have a wonderful experience. You play over in your mind. You sort of rewind the videos sort of thing. And so he's going to go over in his mind, the Simcha Gedolah has just been with his Rov, Simcha Gedolah. But it's a data gasa olav. Interesting to Loshen. And his mind was gassing. Well, normally means thick. I would translate that as preoccupied. He's preoccupied. He's completely sucked into replaying the Gebaldige Geschmack of being with his Rov. I'm sure everybody here has had that experience. And why? And it makes it quite clear. Because he learned Torah Harba. He learned new things. He's very excited about this. And he comes upon a fellow who's extraordinarily ugly. That's a well-known story. So the ugly fellow, sorry, I would call him Chaim. I don't want to call him the ugly fellow. So Chaim says to Elazar, he says, Shalom Aleichem Rebbe, to which he turns around and V'lo texts her light, and he doesn't reply at all. It's really strange. So here we got a huge Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar sees this fellow, and he says, Shalom Aleichem. Nothing, no word. V'lo has it like, Amalai Reka. So he says to him, Reka. And the Mashal says Reka. It's interesting. He says Reka means that he was a Shvatz. He was a Kushi. And he thought he was a Goy. He thought he was a non-Jew. I'm not sure I haven't been able to check out what's the diuk there. Why you turn the word Reka, which means empty, into, it would be some non-Jewish guy from Africa, he assumed he was. And it seems to be he's talking out loud here. He says to himself, what an incredibly ugly fellow. And then he says, Shema kol b'nei ircha mechorim k'moischa. Are all the people in Salford as ugly as you? Not Salford, get the idea. Omer loy, any idea? What a good question. I don't really know. Why don't you go and ask the person who made me if all the people in my town are as ugly as me? And say so, oh, you made an ugly thing. Oh, how did you make such an ugly creation as that? And when Rabbi Elazar realized he'd done such a terrible thing, he said such a terrible thing that upset him, Yered in the Chamar, he gets down from the Chamar, so maybe he's walking along down the riverbank of the Chamar, I'm not sure. And he prostrates himself in front of the fellow. I'm so upset you, I'm embarrassed you, I'm so upset. Mochali, please forgive me. I'm not going to forgive you till you go to the person who made me and tell him what ugly thing you made. I'm not sure I've not looked at any of the before, but it sounds like a nice way of saying drop dead. you're only going to go and be able to talk to the person who made me when you're upstairs with him. I'm not sure. But certainly, whichever way you look at it, he's not in a forgiving mood, this fellow. So he schleps after the fellow until he comes to the town where the fellow comes from, so then he can see if everybody's like that, I suppose. And and when Rabbi Loza comes, everybody realizes it's Rabbi Loza, and they all rush out. And they all shout, Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi, Mori. What do I say, Rabbi, Mori? Why double expression? Spanish guy says you're a Rebbe in Nigla and Nister, Mori in Nigla and Nister. But Amalahem, to which Chaim, call him Chaim now, the ugly fellow, says he says to him, who are you saying this to? Who are you saying Rebbe? He said, look behind you. Look who's there. It's that great Rabbi Loza. Ah, that one. There should be less rabbis like that in Klal Yisrael. Unfortunately, you hear that a lot these days. Ha! That's a frummer! That's what frummers are like! Want nothing to do with them. So he's terribly upset, obviously. This is Chilul Shem of enormous proportions. There should be no rabbis like that anymore. And why? So this is what he did. Interesting. Didn't say that's what he said. He said that's what he did. Oh, right. This sorry. Kach asali. Became mochaloisha odom gadol b'Torah. Despite that fact, you should still be mochel. He's an odom gadol b'Torah. And he says, okay, I'll be mochel him for your sake. Having you mochel on condition you don't do that too often. It's amazing. We mean too often. You do it at all. And him soft to which he then made a drosha. This is the drosha. You should be soft like a reed, and not harsh like a cedar. And because if you're soft like a reed, the reed is what will make a hummus, what will make a pena of the straight rights of Sefer Torah, Mezuzahs and Tefillin, says the Gemara, because it's soft and supple and it bends. Willing to bend. If you're willing to bend, if you're willing to forgive somebody, then that's Torah, that's Tefillin, and that's Mezuzah. But if you're harsh and you're unbending, nobody writes a Sefer Torah from a cedar tree. That's the Maisa. So in reading this Maisa, and when I was reading it to my Bochum in Yeshiva, it is obviously more than peculiar, is it not? I mean, first of all, he sees this fellow and he says, what an ugly guy. I mean, this is, when we're talking about Rabbi Loza here, I mean, if I take myself, who is a microbe, who is a garnish compared to him, I mean, we all, even I know that you're not supposed to say about anything that Hashem has created there. It's ugly. Even a pig. People go, ugh, babe. No, you're not supposed to say, Hashem has created it. It's got place in the Bria. The Rosh created it. It's a pig. It's a chazal. That's what it is. Because it's ugly, that's what it is. What Hashem wanted it to be. So you see a human being say, ugly. And then he says to him, is everybody as ugly as you? Oh, and he's just been to his Rabbi. Right? He's just full of Torah. Right? And that's the way you behave. It's incredibly astonishing, this. The whole thing just doesn't add up. But the halacha we just learned from the Rambam says that if you see a tzaddik, and a tzaddik does something which is 99% dreadful and awful, then you automatically have to assume there must be a different way of seeing it, a different way of understanding it. And as we saw from that interesting story about the Chosn Kana just a few seconds ago, very often in the midst of Don L'Chaskus, and I think we're all familiar with this, when you actually are Don L'Chaskus, it is very often the case that the reward you get, I'm not talking about the reward in Shemayim, that's obvious. I'm talking the reward you get in Olam Hazeh, the reward you get at that moment by being Don L'Chaskus is tremendously geschmack. Because when you say, it seems to me, and Chofetz Chaim says this in Sefer Havas Chaim, that you should go and say to somebody who's upset you should tell them. You know how to hate somebody in your heart is when you keep it in your heart, there's no possibility of shalom. Because you've got enmity, but you keep it hidden. No, you've got to say to somebody, you've upset me. But I want to add to that, you've got to say, I think you upset me. It seems to me you upset me. Because then you're inviting the possibility of an alternative explanation. And how many times in your life, certainly in my life, it seems to me that the person has done something really terrible, and you makan them as a dollar because it's an easy thing to do. You go and say, it seems to me, I think, perhaps you. And that gives yourself the ability to not have the bush, and you turn around and says, no, I didn't. Because there's three possibilities. You say to the person, I think you did such and such a thing. And he says, yes, I did. And I'm so bitterly ashamed. I haven't known how to come and apologize. I've wanted to come and apologize. And have you ever been in that situation yourself? You did something bad and you were just so embarrassed. So imagine going to your Rosh Hashiva, Erev Rosh Hashanah. You made fun of him. And you went, Rosh Hashiva, I want Mechila. Of course, the really awful thing is when you ask somebody for Mechila, Erev Rosh Hashanah, he says, what for? Anyway, so he says, yes, I did it, I'm so embarrassed. Okay, well, you can be mindful of that condition. And then, of course, you go and you say to somebody, it seems to me that you did something, and he says, yes, but the other thing is I didn't do that. That's not what happened at all. And suddenly you hear a whole new narrative, a whole new explanation of the story, which you would never have envisaged, like that girl and her chosin, which you would never have understood. And because you said, it seems to me, you've already made yourself open to an alternative version. He says, okay. And the third is, of course, he said, yes, I did do it, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I can hardly wait to do it again. You don't have to be mindful of that. That's not called Sinus Chedom. If you really did, that's a different story altogether. So what's the story here? If we're mechuyev, according to the Rambam, to go to the end to read, what's talking going on in the story? So the wonderful Ben Yonah, he says the story is completely different. And here in his parish, he says, Nirvana the Inkabonish Rabbi Lozar al Tzavor Aim al Tzarosai. It's obvious that Rabbi Lozar was not, when he said that this fellow's ugly, it was not talking about his appearance. Not at all. He was talking about his behavior. And he says it's very interesting. He says, in that place, in that town, the minhag was that if you have got a Talmud Chacham, you don't say Shalom Aleichem to him until he said Shalom Aleichem to you. Now this actually starts to make sense, because what Rabbi Loza said to him was, Reiko, you empty fellow. What does it mean? Empty of derech eretz. As the British guy says, you don't know how to behave, is what he was saying to him. That's not appropriate behavior. Now that's fair enough. It's fair enough to turn around to somebody and say, sorry, that's not what you do. Right? In those places, different societies have different behaviours. I told you once, in fact, I just saw an old friend of mine who lives in Zurich, now from Manchester. And I remember when I first went to say Shirim in Switzerland. I mentioned this to you before. I'd always wanted to see Switzerland. And so there was a student weekend, it was a Kier weekend, and I was the speaker at that. And then there was a frum, ladies gathering on the Sunday night from something called the Agudas Frau group. And I was to say Shirim there. So after I said that I wanted to go and speak, because I wanted to see Switzerland, because I heard they do mountains there, and I'm Scottish, I like mountains. So I wanted to see what these second-class Swiss mountains look like. And so Bekitzer, after I said yes, then a week later I got a phone call from somebody here in Manchester, who was a cousin of the person who was inviting me, and they said, could you send a video or a tape of one of your shirim? And I thought, that's a bit oilam hofuch. You find out whether the guy can speak and he's any good before you issue the invitation, and he said yes, not after you issue the invitation. But I thought perhaps they want to see the cultural differences. So I sent 2 tapes. One was a video tape, and this was me talking to university students here in England. And for Sheitzach, when you're involved in Kier B'Chalki, when you're talking to not such a fry island, then it's very Leibudik, and you make lots of jokes and funny stories. And then I sent a cassette tape of me giving a serious shir, because occasionally I can do that as well. And I sent them both. And a week later, I received a phone call, and I picked up the phone, and I said, hello, is this Rav Rubinstein? And I said, yes. Hello, Rav Rubinstein. This is Mark from Zurich. I said, hello, Mark. Hello, Rav Rubinstein. It's about the video you sent. I said, yes. We liked it very much. But when you come to Zurich, no humor, please. and you mustn't become friendly with the students. Because in German culture, a Herr Rabbiner is very aloof. There's a certain richuk between a congregant and the Rav. Somebody told me that Rabbi Shimon Schwab, who was the Rav of the Broyersky Hila in Washington Heights in New York, that as a Rav, he was very regal, and it wasn't sort of like a normal American Rav. The Rav's my buddy. No. The Rav was like a melech. But when he retired and apparently moved to Eretz Yisrael, when his congregants went to see him, totally different. That was a friend. Because now he wasn't the Rav of the shul, then he could be a chaver. But no, you mustn't become friendly with the students. Und. Another und. They weren't paying enough for 3 unds. And the dritte und was, and no Yiddish. Because to a German ear, Yiddish is a little bit alluded. It's lovely to be here. So it sounds a little bit fun. Anyway, the kids are, so, no, somehow or other I get through this. But it's a different culture. In a different culture, you have to fit into the norms, right? And so you have to. So here, in this place, it's inappropriate for you to say Shalom Aleichem to the Rebbe until the Rebbe says Shalom Aleichem to you. And this fella comes along and says Shalom Aleichem. So he turns around and says Reiko. Reiko means, don't you know me this at all? I'm the Rav. Ich bin the Herr Rabbiner. You wait for me to say Shalom Aleichem to you. This changes us completely. Now it's a completely different story.
How should he know?
Sorry?
You don't ask her, you're Rav, can I greet you? Cannot greet you? No.
No, I was going to do that. Wait, sorry.
Maar ook ze confirmiert is.
Yeah, was ich sagen?
In this this Rekan, what he called him, he said Shalom to him.
Yeah, said Shalom to him.
And he didn't know it was a Talmid Chacham.
Oh, how did he know? Oh, that's a good question. How did he know it was a Talmid Chacham?
Yeah. You don't ask. Can I greet you? Can I not greet you?
No, there's a levush. There's a levush that Talmidei Chachamim wear. The Gemara talks about, we all know this, it's a levush, a certain levush that Talmid Chacham wears. For example, your shoes have just knocked you out. Talmidei Chachamim at the time of the Gemara wore brown shoes. Brown leather, not black. So there's a levush, you can see that. I mean, you can see a heintige Welt, a frock coat, etc. I mean, somebody once said to me, "Why don't wear a frock coat?" Obviously, don't know me. But a real Rav, a real Talmid Chacham, he wears a frock coat and a hat, a Homburg hat. There's a levush. And interesting, he seems, if you look at the story, they seem to know who he was anyway, because they come to the town, they come rushing out. This is Rabbi Loza. Rabbi, Mori, they know who he was. Right? So therefore, there seems to be a pagam here in. So what went on? So what went on was simply that he was trying to point out something, and then he thought to himself, it's everybody, and he must have said this out loud. It's everybody. It doesn't mean ugly like that. It's everybody behaves so badly where he comes from. Does he come from a place of amaratzi that they don't know what's tutzach? That's what he's really saying here. This is a totally different story. But the problem is that Ben Ish Chai was that the fellow, he used the word ugly meaning midas, but the fellow was ugly. He was physically ugly. So sometimes, even though he didn't mean it, there was, and perhaps because he was so great, he was so taken up by the Torah and the excitement of seeing his Rebbe and the Torah he'd learned, he was not sensitive. There's certainly something wrong here. Rabbi Loza certainly made a mistake here. That's the whole limit. He prostrates himself. He says he did something wrong, and he begs for forgiveness. He's done something wrong, but not. They turn around and say to somebody, "You're an ugly fellow." Imagine a Talmud Chacham say such a thing. Impossible to imagine. Impossible to imagine. Of course, running out of time enormously, and I don't have my notes, so we're in trouble here. Rabbi Avrohom Grzinski, in Sefer Torah Avrohom, he talks. I'll read a little bit of this to you because it's very important to get into this. But Prokim Akadami, he says in the previous Prokim here, was in page 310 in Torah Avrohom. He says we've talked about the chodesh ha'emes b'kol ha'negei l'odam la'atzmai, how rigorous you have to be when it comes to yourself and your own midas and your own behavior. It has to be ends when it comes to it. The shahaya ma'asev dibura machshavosay or goshosov mentin manalosov. It has to be 100% yashus when it comes to yourself. Achshav nevar es mahus v'chodesh ha'emes b'kol ha'negei l'odam and chaveri. That's when it's talking about yourself. Rigorous, strict with yourself. Be honest with yourself. But when it comes to somebody else, that's not how you're supposed to behave. Zomtel, that's not how the Rebbeinu Shalom behaves with us. We are a mixture of midas adin with the Rebbeinu Shalom and a mixture of midas chesed. That's how you would treat other people as well. Not always strictly, not too rigorously. That's a mixture of both. Running over the page. Listen to this. The Mitzvah of Don Lachaskus, he says, you have to copy the behavior of Hashem Yisborach, v'halachta b'drachim, midas adin and midas harachimim. Lo hanhoga shehi shovel hakol. Your interaction with other people, your behavior towards other people, is not shovel hakol. The Rambam already said that. The Rambam was already saying that Don Call on Chaskus. If it's a Benoni, then Takadon Chaskus. If it's a tzaddik, even if it's overwhelming that he's behaved badly, but he's a tzaddik. And anyway, as Rabbi Yonah says there, even if Taki did do it wrong, you can assume that by the next night he's done teshuvah. And of course, they've not come on yet to being a Russian. But your behavior towards other people should not be shovel l'kol. Lo han hogos shel rikuk, v'lo han hogos shel kirov. You shouldn't be always welcome everybody, big smiley face, and you always distance somebody, kalt and varm. No, it's a mixture of both. Ela masecha yekvorcha, masecha yechucha. His behavior, somebody's behavior should either be cause him to be mekarev to you, or be rachid from you. Listen to the lashon here. Asa la'adam liyosef sayna. It's forbidden by the Torah. This is a poshet to poshet. You're not allowed to hate another Jew. V'gam ein rishon liyos ayin l'kol. Nor are you allowed to go around like an idiot, loving everybody. Doesn't matter. Yeah, you know what that horrible phrase they use today: unconditional love. What rubbish! Is it possible for a person to do something in which you should not love them? Oh yes. There are Gemaras in this, there are halachas in this, there's basic ethics and midas in this. There are behaviors that people can do, child abuses, etc. I don't love them. The things you're supposed to hate. Relative to a person's behavior, that's how you interact with them. The mitzvah of Don Chaskus is not stupidity. It's not going around saying, oh no, I don't want to hear. Sometimes you have to hear. You were learning here with Lashon Hara before. Sometimes you have to warn people. Just turning around and saying, you know, it's all the same. That's not Yiddishkeit. That's not Torah. What if it's Taka Roshan? And what if it's a Roshan? So the Rambam says you go to the nth degree to assume that somebody is somebody, if it's a tzaddik, that he's done something, either there's a good explanation or he'll have done shit. But what if the person's a Roshan? Then it's quite the opposite, quite the reverse. Then if his behavior is wonderful and fantastic, assume he's a Russian. But that too is a chelik of his rishus. And even though at Taka, if you just isolate what he's done now, he's given a big donation to the school, to the shul, to whatever it is, and you think, oh, that's gewaldig. You should know, if he's got a chazaka as a Russian, assume he's a Russian. Assume that's rishus as well. Oh, but he gave all that nice money. Don't be a nar. Rabbi Avrohom says that's not how we look at things. You've got to see the whole person. What's his kavanah? What's he really up to? After all, what do you think of a teacher, as Rabbi Yehuda says? He's always done the chaskus. Your child in his class, he's always done the chaskus. Would you want a teacher like that? Or you would want somebody who wants to know what the emes is? Does it appear good, or is it good? We have to see exactly what's tutzach. Yeah, so in this Sedra, we have the Meiser right at the beginning of the Sedra, of Avrohom Avinu and Paro. I want to tell you, of course, and in fact I told you this I think once before, that is the famous Maisa of the Auschwitz parish on the interaction between Avrohom Avinu and Paro. And he goes down to live in Mitzrayim. That I know you're a very beautiful lady. And when they see me, they're going to take you. You'll be gone to the back. You're my sister. And that'll be good to me for you. And they'll keep me alive because of you. So when they came talking to Avrohom and Sarah coming to Mitzrayim, and of course everybody knows that she's kidnapped. Let's see what happens next. The Pasuk says, Yinaga Hashem is Paro Nagoyim Gedoyim. And Hashem gives terrible Nagoyim to Paro. But Es Beisai and all the people in the house as well. Al Dvar Sorai, because of the Meiser Sorai, Eishus Avrohom. By Yikro, Paro Avrohom. So the next morning Paro calls to Avrohom. What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she was your sister? Now I know that she was a wife, take her and go. So the Alshach asks a number of questions here. We'll do it very, very quickly. So, the Yinaga Hashem es Paro Nagoyim Gedoyim. Ve'es Beisai. Why did he give it to the people in the palace as well? And what's the Al Dvar Sorai Eishus Avrohom? Oh, that's where we learn Sorai is Eishus Avrohom. Don't we know that already? I have to tell us that here. And the next morning, when Paro, after the wedding night, that was not a wedding night because he's covered in boils and all sorts of stuff, what does he do? Who does he call first thing in the morning? Avrohom. I call the doctor. Why does he call Avrohom? So the Alsha says interesting, that the kunz was to stop Sarai being stolen away. Now that she's stolen away, when she's taken into the palace, what do you think she told Paro? I'm a married woman. What do you think he said? A minute ago you said you were brother and sister, now it's husband and wife. Well, as you're the most stunning woman in history, and I would like you to be my wife, let's just go with the first version, your original version, and ignore the second. The people in the palace hear this. They should have protested the king's behavior. Because remember, it's only with Yosef Tzaddik that Paro becomes the supreme ruler of Mitzrayim. Before then, he was the first amongst equals. And therefore, they should have protested. And therefore, Vayikra, and he says, Master, what have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? How could you do this to me? Why did you say she was your sister? But the Pasuk says what happened. The Pasuk says, they gave all of them, the going al Paro, and based al Devar Sarai. The words of Sarai, what did you say? Nations of Rome. She said, I'm nations of Rome. But on the outside, I want to look so kosher. I'm a Rasha doing a miser of time and didn't know this. You didn't know this. And of course, Taka, the exact same thing happens later on. It's better. Because when Avimelech steals Sarah away, he is a genius. Much better than Paro. He tries to fool Hashem. And he lives in Gror. He says with Sarah, his wife, she's my sister. Sarah is taken away. You're going to get murdered, you're going to get killed for the woman you've taken. She's a married woman. And he doesn't go anywhere near her. But Yom Hashem, Hagoy Gam Tzadik Tarik, will you kill a righteous people? Hello, Omar, didn't he say to me, Vehi Gam Hi Omar Ohiu? And she also said, Ohiu. The algebra is brewing here. The difference between what he says is that he is trying to fool Hashem. Indeed, Avram said, she's my sister. But what he says to Hashem is, he said that she was his sister. And she also said that they were brother and sister. But the Pasuk points out, didn't say to me. She didn't say to me. What do you think she said to Abimelech when he takes her? I'm a married woman. So listen to what he said. Hello, Omerli Achaisi. He said to me, she's my sister. And he did. Vehi gam hi Omra. And she also said, but he didn't say the word li. Because he didn't say to her. That's what she didn't say that to him. To him she said that I am a married woman. In fact, that's how the Pasuk, that's how the shtickle ends. That Avram davens for all the nasty things to be taken away from Abimelech. Ki Otzar Hashem is Otzar Hashem ba'al kol rechem means Abimelech al devar Sarah Eishes of Rome. She said it. Al devar Sarah. She said she was Eishes of Rome. But why is it that Avram does this? And that's the question Abimelech says. How could it possibly be that you do this to me? And Pasuk Yud. And Yud Aleph, Avram gives the answer. But Yishlach, sorry, this place. Yeah. In Pasuk Yud, he says, V'yam Avimelech el Avram ma'or ra'isi ki osisum es adov razeh. V'yam Avram ki omarti rak in yiras elakim b'mokem hazeh. Bargoni al dvar ishni. It's funny, the word for Philistine, and Avimelech was a Philistine. The word for Pilishtim in English is Philistine, and Philistine means somebody who's uncultured. You call somebody a Philistine, you know nothing about culture, etc., etc. Although the emes is that the Philistines were extremely cultured. And that's what a God Tzaddik, we behave so nicely. That's the outside. But what's the inside? You're a Rasha, and it doesn't matter what you do that looks good, what the money that you give that seems to be tzedakah. What's the real person? So, the Mitzvah is when you're talking about Beinani, then versteht sich. You've got to be done like Askus. If it's a tzaddik, even if it's overwhelming, he's done something wrong, we can work that one out. It's either tshuva or we've made a mistake. But if it's a Rasha, like a Paro in this week's Seder, or Avimelech in next week's Seder, and we know there is no mitzvah to be done like Askus, that's narish, as Rabbi says. You should never extend the mitzvah done like Askus beyond its rightful boundaries, and that's for a tzaddik or a Beinoni. But for a Rasha, until he does Teshuvah, we know it's Teshuvah, don't have to